Is there anything more rock and roll than waking up in a dumpster or escaping from a hospital? Let's ask Nikki Sixx.
Did the members of KISS mix their blood into the ink for their 1970s comic book?
Hey everybody, this is Big Randy with the Smarts Project. I've provided security and transportation for some of the biggest names in the music industry.
I'm John. I've been a musician for over 20 years, playing everything from metal and punk to bluegrass and country.
We're bringing you a podcast about some of the weirdest myths and legends that the music industry has to offer. This is Tall Tales and Music Mythology.
Hey everybody, this is Big Randy with the Smarts Project. Welcome to the podcast. And with me on the wheels of steel is a 6-foot, hot look, all-American man, Mr. Jonathan Glove.
Hello, everybody.
So, in the music news, unfortunately, we had a loss in rock and roll history. It's Mr. Malcolm Young.
Yep.
Guitarist and co-founder of AC/DC. He died Saturday, November 18th at the age of 64. Yep. Malcolm had been suffering from dementia for the past 3 years, an illness that forced his retirement from the band he founded with his brother Angus Young in 1973. Yep. That one I didn't know that they founded it together.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. And their older brother George was the guitarist and I think the producer also of an Australian band called the Easy Beats.
Yeah, that's actually one thing that I got. Let's see, the younger brothers lost their older brother George Young, the Easy Beats guitarist and AC/DC's longtime producer in October at the age of 70.
Yep, October 22nd.
Yeah. In addition to a statement from Malcolm Young's family, the band said that Malcolm Young died peacefully Saturday with his family by his side. Man, you can't ask no better than that, for real.
And George produced all of their early albums, I want to say at least up through Back in Black, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So he did like High Voltage and TNT and Let There Be Rock and Highway to Hell. I think he might have done No, he didn't do Back in Black because Mutt Lange did Back in Black.
Yeah.
Mutt might have even done Highway to Hell. I forget.
Man, there's never going to be another Back in Black, man. And I know it's a generational thing, but Back in Black, whenever that came out, man, that was a monster.
I listened to a lot of AC/DC in high school and through my teenage years. Hell, I've been in a couple bands that we covered. I covered Back in Black once with a band, and You Shook Me All Night Long a couple of times as well. So, I mean, I've said this before, Angus Young was definitely one of the guitarists that made me want to play lead guitar.
Yeah.
Dude was amazing, or still is. I mean, he's alive, of course.
Sure.
But, Malcolm was always kind of the unsung hero of the band, and Angus tried to always
put him in the spotlight.
Yeah, because you'll hear him talk all the time about he was the main songwriter. Malcolm was, but he just wanted to be in the background. He didn't care about being famous and being the face of the band. That's why
he's so digging where he was at.
Yeah, it was always either Angus or Angus and Bon when he was alive, or Angus and Brian. It was never Malcolm. Malcolm very rarely was involved in interviews.
I saw this is totally off script, but I saw a video of, I want to say they were in Brazil, and they were at this soccer arena.
Yeah.
There was over 100,000 people that was there.
Yeah.
Well over 100,000 people. I mean, it might have been double that. But
those Brazil concerts like that are
insane, bro. And they had a runway that went out right in the middle. I bet that damn thing probably went out a good 200 feet at least. I mean, it went out for a ways, and then of course they had like a teardrop at the end of it, and the crowd, they were playing TNT on this video that I seen, and the crowd was jumping up, and you could see when they were hearing it, because they're jumping up in waves,
Yeah.
And I remember seeing, that reminded me of like a Queen back in the day.
Oh yeah, like Wembley.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
And one thing that was pretty impressive is I was watching that, and I was thinking, man, I wonder if like there's like geologists that could, recognize that, and
Right.
and then there was
No shit.
Yeah, there was geologists that they were like, oh my God, what the hell's happening? But then they found out that, well, there's a concert going on. And I mean, these things were like 7-8 miles away.
Registers as a seismic event.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Because, there's a couple 100,000 people that were jumping up and down.
Well, and Brazil, we talk about those concerts like that. It's kind of had a very small but lasting impression on music in a lot of ways. There's a band called Sepultura, who is from Brazil, and they're very instrumental in the formation of like early death metal.
Really?
And stuff like that. Yeah, that band.
I didn't know that's where they're from.
Yeah, they're from Brazil. And when they recorded their first album, I think it was in 85 or 86, they were only just learning English.
Shut your face.
So like their lyrics are very literal interpretations. Like they're going from like a dictionary, like a Brazilian to English dictionary, or Portuguese. Sorry, they speak Portuguese in Brazil. Yeah, that's crazy. Another person who died recently since our last episode was the original singer of Faith No More,
that's
Chuck
right.
Mosley.
Yeah.
Which obviously Faith No More was more famous with Mike Patton singing for them, but Chuck Mosley was their singer through the mid to late 80s. I think it was like 87 or 88 was when he left the band and Mike Patton came in.
And then we were just talking before we hit record that we're recording this on the 19th on Sunday, and just a few hours ago, well, it's a little after 1 p.m. now, just a few hours ago, we heard that Mel Tillis passed away at 85. Didn't even have enough time to write any material on that one, but that's a tough one right there, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that is one of the classics, and there's only a handful of guys from that era that are left, Mickey Gilley.
Yeah.
I can't believe that Jerry Lee Lewis is still alive.
Right.
That son of a bitch, man.
Blows
I
my
swear to
mind.
God, he's like
Figured he would have been one of the first ones to go.
with the life that brother's lived. Holy cow.
Exactly.
Little Richard.
Yeah.
Golly, man. That whole, that's a tough one, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
This part of getting old, I reckon, is, you seen your idols go down one by one.
It's true.
So my story is about a couple of things that has to do with Nikki Sixx, and I love this man dearly. I've probably met him. I'm guessing I've probably met him 4 or 5 times.
Really?
And it would be really elementary of me to assume that he's going to remember me.
Right. No.
There's only a handful of people that I've ever met more than one time, as far as people like this is concerned, and nobody's ever remembered me.
Well, yeah. I mean, they meet hundreds and thousands of people.
Yeah. What are the odds? Yeah. Well, actually, I will say that the only one that comes to mind that did remember me actually was Toby Keith. And we actually drove him. The second time I drove him, the first time I drove him, he just came back from Iraq. Iraq and Iran, and he was doing some shows over there.
Right,
and
USO tours.
Yeah, and we were talking about it, me and him and his security guy, Jason, and we were talking about that, and I told him, I said, it's really cool what you're doing, man. I don't think you ever been to military, but, that means a lot. I was in the Navy. I wasn't out there in the desert like these cats, but, it means a lot to military guys, and he was the first person ever in my life to thank me for my service. Yeah,
Gotcha.
I'll remember that on my dying day.
And that's good to know, because like a lot of like when Alan Jackson wrote the "Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning," like I felt like that was a crass cash in on a tragedy.
Yeah.
But it's cool to know that somebody like Toby Keith must be legit if he's saying things like that to you.
Oh, that brother's
what I'm
walking
saying?
the walk, man.
So he's
he's taking his ass out over there, and there's a lot of, I'm not going to go into it, but there's a lot of security there's a lot of security steps that have to be taken whenever he goes overseas.
Oh yeah.
And it's a huge financial burden on him to do that.
Yeah.
But he walks the walk, man. I mean, he's legit. There ain't a whole lot of people I can say that about, but I mean, he's legit. He's got my love. That's for damn sure.
That's good. I kind of figured he must be to be friends with Stephen Colbert, and
Oh, is he really?
Oh yeah, he would appear on the Colbert Report all the time. like for Christmas specials and stuff like that, Toby Keith would be on there, which blew my mind.
Wow, that's two opposite ends of the spectrum.
I know,
right
exactly. There. So I figured he's got to be a pretty decent dude to be, and I mean he hangs out with Willie Nelson, too. You know, again another person on the opposite end of the political spectrum from him.
You know, I'll say it again, going off script, but the first time I met him. He was performing at the amphitheater in Virginia Beach. Picked him up from the airport and took him back. His bus met him at the amphitheater. He had to fly out to something, and we picked him up from the airport and brought him back to the amphitheater.
Gotcha.
And you know. My favorite, you know, being a fat guy, my favorite part is craft services, you know, right where they call it catering there. But, I sit in there and man, they have every kind of soda pop you can imagine. I mean, what do you want? Bottled water? They only got 17 different kinds, you know? Yeah. So anyway, that's my place to hang out. Plus they got the big screen TVs that, you know, even though you're only 50 feet away from the stage, you can watch it right there. Right. You know, somebody opens up the door and you can look out stage right, you know? Yeah. So, anyway, I like hanging out there. And anyway, we were, sitting at this round table, probably comfortably sit about 8 or 10 people my size, you know.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's just me and a couple of roadies and whatnot. And I know this sounds really stupid, but I'm not a bright man. But at the time, I didn't know who Toby Keith was. I heard his name before, but I didn't. Yeah, I didn't know who he was. Well, it's a long story, but anyway. I had picked him up, but I had picked him and a couple other people up, and I didn't know which one was which. Okay. You know, and they're all just, you know, whatever. You know,
right.
Great big white folks, whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got back, and he got to the bus, did his thing, whatever. So anyway, we're talking about cars. And so the you know, being that I'm a chauffeur, these guys, you know, automatically assume that I know shit from apple butter about cars, which I don't, you know.
That's where you're wrong, kiddo.
That's right. So anyway, we're talking about cars and they go, well, you know, well, what kind of car do you like and why do you like it and blah, blah, blah. And we're, you know, asking each other, you know, and I know now, but I didn't know then, Toby and a couple of guys walked in and they went over and got something to drink and they sat down at the table with us. And so they kind of joined the conversation. Again, I have no idea who these people are, right? So I just thought these were people that I'm picking up from the airport, you know? So anyway, we're talking and so somebody asked me, well, if money was no object, what would you get? I said, man, if I won the lotto, I would get the biggest, fattest smart car I can get my hands on. And people are like, what? You big fat ass trying to squeeze in there? They ain't got enough butter in the world to get your ass squeezed in that thing, you know? So you know, you're around mixed companies. So, you know, I don't want to cuss or say anything crass or anything like it. So instead of saying fat ass, I'd say chunky butt, you know? Yeah. So anyway, we go on with the conversation. Somebody comes in and says something. A couple of roadies got to get up and leave. So we all kind of dispersed, you know, went about our way. And so anyway, later on, I'm out in the parking lot and I'm talking with my friend Faye. She's the one that owns the limo company, and we're out there just smoking a cigarette and shooting the shit. And so anyway, Jason and his security guy, I'm sorry, Toby and his security guy, Jason, they get out of the bus and they're walking around and they're talking to themselves, you know, and they're not really watching where they're going. And I had my back to the bus. So I didn't see. And right as soon as Faye said, watch out. I mean, we're out in the middle of the parking lot. There's nobody around there. There's no buses. There's no nothing. It's just us in the middle of the concrete. Yeah. And so right just before, Faye had said, look out, you know, he's going to bump into you. And she like grabs my shirt to like pull me forward. Yeah. And so Toby bumped into me and we're pretty close to the same height. He's maybe about an inch or so shorter than me.
I know he's a pretty big dude.
Yeah, he's probably about 6'2", 6'3", something like that, you know, but with the, you know, with the hat and the boots and all that, you know, he's probably 6'9" or whatever, you know, with the afro, you know. So anyway, I turned around and, you know, I'm not expecting somebody to bump into me, you know. And he put his hand on my shoulder and he goes, oh, I'm sorry, chunky butt, you know. And so we all kind of laughed and yucked it up, you know. And Faye was like, oh my God, Toby Keith just called you chunky butt. You need to tell Jen, which was my girlfriend in Virginia Beach. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. So I called up Jen. I told her, I said, told her what I just said, and she goes, "Oh my God, Toby Keith called my boyfriend Chunky Butt," and that was like her favorite story from that point on.
That is pretty funny. So the guy who gave me some guitar lessons when I was 11 went on to be a touring guitarist for Toby Keith.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
he's just like a stand-up dude. I can't say enough good stuff about him.
Yeah.
But anyway, now after all that stuff is totally off script, is out of the way.
Hey, people are always wanting to hear stories about you and celebrities, so that was perfect.
We're giving you your money's worth on this free podcast. So from a career standpoint, Motley Crue has had 9 lives. However, I'd estimate that the bassist and co-founder Nikki Sixx has eaten up at least half of those. To date, Motley Crue has sold more than 100 million records worldwide, including 25 million albums in the United States alone, making it one of the best-selling bands of all time. And really, I should say, probably one of the best-selling franchises of all time.
Right.
The way that things are going now. So during the 80s, the band gained a reputation for drugs, loud music, sex, and wild parties. The group was known for backstage antics, groupies, outrageous clothing, high-heeled boots, and heavily applied makeup, only to be outdone by the likes of Kiss. All the members of Motley Crue have their own future episodes of Tall Tales of Music Mythology due to alcoholism and long addiction to drugs, but Sixx was the only one hooked on heroin.
Yeah.
Nikki estimated that he has overdosed on heroin, quote, about a half dozen times.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Well, everybody's got to have a hobby.
Oh, man.
So in 1986, Valentine's Day night out on the town in London, following the group's gig with Cheap Trick, which I didn't even know that they were playing Cheap Trick.
An odd pairing.
Oh, well, here's another one. Cheap Trick and Andy McCoy from Hanoi Rocks.
That one I can see more than
But can you imagine the whole lineup?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
odd.
Bizarre.
Yeah, because compared to speaking, like Cheap Trick is really kind of clean cut and
talented.
No, you did not. So anyway, Nikki and Andy McCoy from Hanoi Rocks hopped into a black English taxi in search of heroin. Nikki was so messed up from the high that he was currently on, he asked the dealer to inject him. This was a pretty big mistake.
Okay, yeah, I've heard this one. Okay.
There's two of them. Nikki coughed and gagged violently. When he woke up, he looked down. He said the room looked upside down. He was on the shoulder of the dealer, who was carrying Nikki out the door like an old trash bag.
Oh,
he gagged again, and vomit came pouring out of his mouth. The dealer dropped Nikki onto the floor. His body had turned blue. There was ice in his pants, and Andy was trying to wake him up. Yeah, and he had large welts all over his arms and chest from being hit with a baseball bat.
What?
That was the dealer's idea. He thought he could put Nikki in so much pain that his system would shock itself back into action with natural adrenaline.
Well, I mean, you don't always think of dealers as being the most intelligent people in the world, so I guess that makes sense.
You get what you pay for, I guess.
Man.
So when that failed, he had evidently decided to throw Nikki into the dumpster behind the tenement and leave him for dead. But then Nikki vomited on his shoes. Nikki eventually came to in the dumpster. In the face of full disclosure, I'll say that this was a version of the event given by Nikki Sixx.
Right.
The event was the inspiration behind the lyric, Valentine's in London found me in the trash, from the Motley Crue song Dancing on Glass.
I was going to say, I have no clue what song that's from.
Neither do I.
Oh, I figured you would since you actually
you got to understand, man. I was pretty clean cut back during this time when those boys came out.
Right.
They used to scare the shit out of me.
Really?
I ain't lying.
What?
Yeah, there ain't a whole lot of white folks that scared the hell out of me back then, but Motley Crue was definitely one of them. Because I bought into the whole perception of the whole image that they were putting out.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because I didn't live through that, but they all seem like a bunch of pussies. So
now in hindsight, yeah. But in hindsight, so does Mr. T.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Well, he was real deal, though.
Exactly. That dude is bad as hell.
He can make me a stain on a carpet, man.
Oh, hell yeah.
This version had caused a bit of a feud between him and Andy McCoy from Hanoi Rocks because Andy feels the night went a completely different direction.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We might talk about that version on a later episode, but suffice to say that Andy claims that him and another unknown heroin addict took him back to the hotel where they revived him. Yeah, and it is 180 degrees opposite.
Really?
Yeah. So the the details of the event that I just gave, that was from Nikki's book.
Right.
Heroin Diaries.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was the one, I think he talked about that on Behind the Music.
Oh, yeah.
Too, because
excellent version of, oh man, that was a good episode.
I have seen that, despite, again, my stated distaste for Motley Crue. Yeah.
So in 1987, Motley Crue was part of the Guns N' Roses Appetite for Destruction tour.
Nice.
During the tour, Guns N' Roses was the opening act for a number of popular bands, including Motley Crue. Nikki Sixx was doing heroin in guitarist Slash's hotel room shower when he suffered a drug overdose. On the night of, this is the second one I was talking about. And people, whenever you read these accounts, they intermix these things, like the details.
Gotcha.
And it drives me apeshit.
Makes sense.
So, on the night of December 23rd, 1987, while touring with Guns N' Roses, Nikki teamed up with Slash along with Steven Adler and Rat's Robin Crosby to unwind by shooting some heroin.
I was going to say, if heroin and Guns N' Roses are involved, Steven Adler is going to be there. That's a definite for sure.
Again, everybody needs a hobby. Unfortunately, because opiate fans aren't really renowned for their measuring skills, this overdose wasn't like the others. He had turned blue and couldn't be wakened.
Wow.
And Nikki ended up overdosing and dying in Slash's shower. Slash may or may not have been in the room at the time, depending on what article you read. Regardless, Slash's girlfriend called the authorities. A recent U.S. transplant named Sally McLaughlin recalls frantically giving Nikki mouth-to-mouth resuscitation while her then-boyfriend Slash destroyed the hotel bathroom around them.
Wow.
That's got to be surreal, that shit going on. By the time the paramedics arrived, Nikki was hardly breathing, and they gave him 2 shots of adrenaline to the heart, although not before he had an out-of-body experience.
Wait, so do they really did they really used to give adrenaline shots to the heart?
Oh, they still do. I got a buddy of mine, Rob Powell, that he's a first responder in Baltimore.
Yeah?
Which Baltimore's going through horrible drug stuff
Has
right
been
now.
For a minute.
The stuff he puts on, like Facebook and stuff like that. I mean, this is my brother. He got me into Lodge. You know? We worked together doing security in Seattle, and he's a bigger man than me.
See, I thought that was always just a myth made by Pulp Fiction.
Oh no, that's shit's for real. The thing that shocked me isn't the fact that he got adrenaline straight through. I mean, they threw it through the rib cage into the heart.
You gotta go down in a thrusting motion.
Yeah, that's not the part that shocks me. The part that shocks me is that it needed 2 of them.
Yeah, dude, that's insane.
That's putting it mildly. Yeah. So, to quote Nikki, I tried to sit up to figure out what was going on. I thought it would be hard to lift my body, but to my surprise, I shot upright as if I weighed nothing. Then it felt as if something very gentle was grabbing my head and pulling me upward. Above me, everything was bright white. I looked down and realized I had left my body. Nikki Sixx, or the filthy tattooed container that had once held him, was lying covered face to toe with a sheet on a gurney, being pushed by medics into an ambulance.
Damn.
Yeah, that's from the Heroin Diaries.
Gotcha. Yeah.
During the ride to the hospital, he stopped breathing and was declared dead for 2 minutes. The paramedics continued to apply care until he was eventually revived. Now, one thing that I read it so much that I kind of doubt its authenticity.
Right. I'm sure he's playing this up a little bit.
Well, I'm sure, yeah. But the one thing that I've seen in almost every account of this is that there were 2 first responders and one of them was a Motley Crue fan, yet they never name who it is. They never give the name of who the first responder is.
Oh, I don't know.
Out of 100 of these things that I read, and they all say the same thing, and I'm sure that there's anybody that does any kind of research on anything will tell you that there is a metric ass load of cut and paste that goes on in a research.
Oh, absolutely. From one website to another.
Oh, absolutely.
One source
yeah.
to another.
And that's exactly what I was running to with this. And I'm sure that's why I'm reading the same thing. But no matter where I read, I looked at the police report. Mm-hmm. I looked at all that. Nobody had the names of, who the first responders were, or a badge number, or anything like that.
I don't know how common that is or isn't to really comment on it.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
It's just a matter of cutting and pasting, I guess.
Yeah.
But the paramedics continued to apply care until he was revived. Amid the confusion, word leaked out. This is where it gets good. word leaked out to the radio stations and to other members of the band that Nikki Sixx had died. In the Heroin Diaries, Vince Neil recalls being devastated. He quoted, "Maybe deep down I knew it was going to happen one day, but it still tore me to pieces because I loved Nikki, even though he was an arrogant, selfish shit. I cried, and I never used to cry then." Unquote. But then Nikki eventually woke up just a few hours later, and in some reports you hear, well, I'm not going to ruin it. True to form, he was not thrilled with being in the hospital, and he left in style. Nikki ripped the tubes out of his nose and ran into the parking lot where two teenagers sat crying around a candle they had lit in honor of Nikki Sixx dying. They had just heard on the radio that Nikki Sixx had died and looked a bit surprised to see him standing in front of them, clad only in a pair of black leather breeches. So the teenagers gave Nikki a jacket, a lecture about quitting drugs, and a ride home in their shitty little Mazda.
That's hilarious.
Now, some accounts say that he ripped out tubes and sprang out of the EMT vehicle, and then other ones say that he escaped out of the hospital. Yeah,
okay, gotcha.
I tend to believe that it was the hospital.
That seems more likely.
Yeah,
because there's no way. I mean, the confines of the back of an ambulance like that.
It's not passenger friendly.
And they're not going to let you get up. I mean, you can't get up without them helping you up at that point.
And I'm almost sure that he's probably strapped in.
Yeah, that could be too, yeah, especially if they thought he was dead, or dying.
Yeah. So ordinarily, this would be followed by a long period of bed rest and some self-reflection on bad decisions he had made in times gone by. But no, not for our rock and roll hero. Once home, he continued to shoot up heroin and was later found sleeping with a syringe still in his arm.
Oh, my God.
This guy's so rock and roll. As the world would come to learn, Nikki Sixx cannot be destroyed by heroin alone. Soon after the story made international news, Nikki Sixx entered rehab. Focused and healthy, he was then able to lend killer bass lines to the group's next album, the seminal Dr. Feelgood, which was an awesome album. In hindsight, it was an awesome album. At the time, it scared the shit out of me, which as many of us recognize as another term for a drug dealer, Dr. Feelgood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right.
So in 1989, the band released the hit single Kickstart My Heart, which was inspired by the infamous overdose. Nikki Sixx told Rolling Stones, quote, "That was a song I had written very quickly and had brought into rehearsal. I thought it was a throwaway, something that would belong on Too Fast for Love. It was just really took on a life of its own and fit onto the album a lot better than it should," unquote.
That's one of the few Motley Crue songs that I don't totally hate.
Really?
Kickstart My Heart. And actually, Between the Buried and Me, a progressive technical death metal band, I guess you'd call them, covered that back in like 2005 or 6.
I actually have something about that.
No kidding? Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Spoiler.
Yeah.
Nikki Sixx has been sober for over 17 years now. He also hosts a popular iHeart radio show called Sixth Sense with Nikki Sixx.
Yep. And he has some series of YouTube videos with famous guitarists who play like riffs that it's kind of like a bet you can't play this kind of deal, like Guitar World used to do back in the day, with a lot of famous guitarists.
And have you heard anything from 6 a.m.?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, I love those guys.
Not my cup of tea.
DJ Ashba is from Indiana.
Right, I know. Yeah, I know
And
the guy.
he is just an excellent guitarist.
He's an amazing guitarist.
Yeah.
No doubt. And a lot of those guys were talented.
Just not your gig.
Nah, just hair metal in general, man. Just
Don't be hating.
bums me out.
But his the Sixth Sense with Nikki Sixx broadcast on more than 130 stations nationally, and he openly discusses his struggle with alcohol and drug addiction on his recovery.
Yeah.
Now, a few things that I found out that really didn't fit into the story is Motley Crue appeared in a commercial for the Kia Optima that ran during the 2012 Super Bowl.
I didn't know that.
In the
then
ad,
again, I don't watch the Super Bowl, so that's probably a big
there's
reason
two
why I
things
didn't
that,
know
in the ad, they are performing Kickstart My Heart in a really awesome dream. Brazilian model Adriana Lima and Pittsburgh Steeler Brett Keisel and ex-UFC fighter Chuck Liddell also appear.
Nice.
The concept is that the vehicle is the only thing that you can dream of that is attainable for waking hours. The song soundtracked on a 2014 commercial for the Dodge Charger. Dodge also acted as the presenting sponsor of Motley Crue's The Final Tour, which kicked off in Grand Rapids at Van Andel Arena on July 2nd, 2014.
Gotcha.
The video clip was shot in the Whiskey A Go-Go on October 5th, 1989 during Motley Crue's warm-up show before embarking on their Dr. Feelgood tour. Sam Kinison featured at the start of the video in a short cameo as the band's driver.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't know that.
That bus that he's driving, it ain't no bus. This is like OG, like it's something that's it looks like whenever it came off the line, it looks like something that the Beach Boys would have drove. It is so badass. Oh my God, the way they did it. In 2011, Motley Crue made a new video for the song, which included multiple clips from their U.S. tour with Poison and New York Dolls.
Oh, nice.
Soon after, the band issued the following statement. We documented the whole tour, top to bottom, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And as we were looking through all the amazing footage, we thought how cool it would be to cut together best of visual for the fans who made this tour happen. This one is just for the fans from us.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't think they made any money off of it. I think it was like a freebie put on YouTube or something.
Oh, really? Okay, gotcha.
I could be wrong on that. I'm just making shit up anyway. The guitar riff driving the song bears a striking resemblance to Sweet's intro with their 1973 song Hellraiser, which itself resembles Led Zeppelin's 1967 song or 1969 song Whole Lotta Love.
Yep, exactly.
Yep,
absolutely.
My friend Trish will be glad that I got a Sweet reference in this episode.
Yeah, I don't know the Sweet song, but I definitely know a Whole Lotta Love.
Actually, I wasn't familiar with the song, but I did look up the song and I was like, son of a bitch.
You really?
That's really it. Yeah, and they were talking about the motorcycle part at the beginning of
it's a tremolo. It's a whammy bar.
Yeah, and they had some dude's name on it, but it was going off on some like speaking in tongues, like people like you would understand.
Yeah,
well, I just left it out.
What it was is a whammy bar on a guitar. When you dive bomb, as it's called, pushing it all the way to the body, it lifts the bridge up and slacks the strings, and the strings go way down.
Right.
Well, then if you pluck a string and raise the tremolo arm back up, it makes that sound like that. So that's all it was just whammy bar tricks.
But they had it. There was some dude's name that they attributed it to. That he was the one that started it, or named after him.
Well, I mean, there's Floyd Rose is the guy.
That's it.
Yeah, Floyd Rose is the guy who invented.
I told y'all that is some shit that only John would know.
He's the guy who invented the double locking tremolo. So what that means is normally a whammy bar, or the true name tremolo, when you're messing with it that much, dive bombing and pulling up if you have a floating bridge, because some tremolos will stop when it hits the body. Other ones are floating, so it's routed out underneath the tremolo, and you can pull up on it as well. And Steve Vai made a career out of that. That's not to diminish Steve Vai's talent, because the dude is a stupid guitarist. He's amazing.
Right.
But a double locking tremolo, normally with a tremolo, when you do that, it'll pull on the tuners, okay, and knock it out of tune. So the guitar will go way out of tune after you mess with the whammy bar like that. A double locking tremolo locks the strings at the bridge, and there are 3 pressure pads that are tightened down by an Allen or a hex screw, I should say, with an Allen wrench at the nut. So it locks everything from the nut to the bridge, and so that way there's no way that the tuners can come out of tune, because it's locked down like that. And so that's the easiest way to do whammy bar tricks like that, is with the Floyd Rose tremolo.
Now, this is the part that I thought was really neat. There's been 5 versions that I found of Kickstart My Heart.
Gotcha.
Great White's version was featured on their 2009 album, The Essential Collection. And I have to say, it's pretty much what I had envisioned in my mind. But it was pretty good.
Yeah.
But I like that kind of music. Asking Alexandria recorded a cover for their
Man, this is garbage.
For their EP Under the Influence, a tribute to the legends of hard rock, and it was okay. I didn't like the vocals, but
I hate that
the music part was just not my gig.
Melodic metalcore like that is just.
Oh, that's what that is?
Yeah, it's just so generic. That style was played out by the early mid-2000s, and bands are still milking it for all it's worth.
Just hanging on.
I mean, sorry.
This is the one that got me. A country Motley Crue tribute album, Nashville Outlaws, a tribute to Motley Crue, included a cover by Rascal Flatts.
Oh, God.
This was pretty damn good, bro.
Oh, really?
I'm telling you, you need to... This, honestly, I mean this heart to heart. You need to look this up. You will be impressed.
I really hate Rascal Flats a lot.
I tell you what, I was with them brothers for 10 days, and I didn't never hear them play this once.
It's them covering Motley Crue. I don't know how much worse that could get.
I'm telling you, you need to listen to. You watch the video.
It out, I guess.
Watch the video. I'm telling you, it's not the. It's not like a video. It's like them playing it in concert.
Yeah.
Excellent.
When Rascal Flats, when they first came out, it's whatever. It's a sad boy country band. Okay, whatever. I can deal with this. But then when they did that song, "Me and My Gang," because when I think of a bunch of tough motorcycle riding guys, I think of Rascal Flats. Sorry, that's my daily dose of asshole for all y'all out there.
Oh, that's a package deal, guys. You get that.
Yeah, exactly.
Between the Buried and Me recorded a version for their cover album, The Anatomy of. The guitar was really nice on this version, and the vocals were pretty impressive.
Dude, that band is stupid talented. Like, they're not everybody's cup of tea, obviously, but that band is really good.
I've never heard of them until this, and this was the first song I've ever heard them play was this song.
Yeah.
And I liked them.
It sounds, that song
I like the guy's vocals.
Yeah. Because the dude can do anything as far as vocals. He goes from like super high pitched, wailing, like really emotive vocals to death metal guttural, Cookie Monster vocals and stuff like that.
Cookie Monster, stop
it. But then that album though is really interesting because it starts off with Blackened by Metallica, way better than Metallica did it.
Shut your face.
Well, mainly just because they have a good drummer.
Oh no, that just happened.
Yeah.
You heard it first here.
Yeah, because if that's the main thing that I think holds back Metallica is Lars, the drummer.
I'm shocked that you're saying that, dude.
He's not a good drummer.
Really?
No, he's gotten worse.
No,
over the years. You listen to like One. Okay, the song One.
Yeah.
He's playing like machine gun double bass, and now he's like everything he plays is like just like really slow and plodding. And James is always giving him shit about that. Like, no, play faster.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but...
I've never met James, but he just looks like the coolest dude you could ever possibly meet.
Absolutely. Plus, I play the same guitar as him, so...
There you go. Cool. Speaking of bands that could do anything, Steel Panther did a turn at it, and it was pretty much a Motley Crue version.
Well, that makes
It wasn't too bad.
Since they're pretty much a Motley Crue parody band.
Yeah. Although the girls in the video were ridiculous at best.
Really?
The video I seen was them playing it in concert, and apparently they had the misfortune of playing in front of a front row of a bachelorette party.
Oh yeah.
And he just drug every one of their drunk asses up on, and they're just acting like drunk white girls on stage.
Girls.
Yeah. And it was just sad. And I got a lot of respect. For Steel Panther. I mean, I kind of look at them as almost in the same category as like Weird Al.
Yeah.
They're parody, but these are definitely talented guys.
Oh, absolutely.
Not taking anything away from them.
No.
But I think they're excellent at what they do, and I hope they get just stinking rich off of doing it.
And they've been around for a long time.
Yeah, and they still look good too.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Vince Neil; he looks like me.
Yeah, he's definitely a little haggard.
And all these boys on Steel Panther, all these dudes, they still look like from the '80s, man.
Well, I'm guessing they didn't do nearly the amount of drugs that Motley Crue did.
Oh yeah, all these brothers still look like Kip Winger.
Kip Winger, that's funny.
That's a reference for you.
Oh man,
yeah. So Nikki Sixx had a very un-rock star name when he first dove into the pool of inequity that is rock and roll. When Frank Carlton Serafino Farana Jr. first started touring with the band, he called himself Nicky London because the band he was in was called London.
Holy Roman Catholic name, Batman.
Gee, I wonder if he's Italian. I don't know. But eventually he decided that maybe it wasn't the best idea for a name.
Man.
He was considering new last names when he stumbled across his then girlfriend's scrapbook, and she had documented a time when she dated a musician from a band called John and the Night Riders. The musician's name was Nikki Sixx. Nikixx. I stole his name, Nikki admits. I just liked it.
That's kind of funny.
That's ballsy. I respect that. Nikki Sixx tried to hook up with Tommy Lee's mom.
What? Oh my god! Oh my god!
You can't write this stuff, man. Boy, you talk about a den of inequity.
So fun story about Tommy Lee. Once upon a time, my dad and I were auditioning drummers to play with us, and I knew right from the get-go that this one guy was not going to be a good fit for us when he told me that his favorite drummer was Tommy Lee.
Let's get the formalities out of the way.
Yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, no.
Did you ever see the thing that they had? I think it was right after the Pamela Anderson thing. That they had sent him to a college, and he was going to play on a drum line for a college.
Yeah.
Did you ever see it?
That
was actually really funny.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I took it exactly the way that they meant it.
Yeah.
But I know, but he wanted to. He just wanted to sling dick as soon as he got to that college.
That does not surprise me.
I don't know whether he did or not, but he was working it like a nunchuck.
I have never seen or heard anything he's played where I've been like, oh, that was a really good drum beat, or that was a really good fill.
Well done, Tommy.
It's like everything is just so bland with him. I don't know, man.
Oh, you know the you seen that riser that on the last, you know what they called that? It was the crucifier, but CRUE, crucifier.
Oh, okay,
he flies.
Right.
He goes 55 feet in the air.
And I think he just does that to hide the fact that he's not very good.
You're so wrong.
I'm just telling. Listen to his drum beats, and they're not anything special.
No, I believe, but see, I don't know it like you know it.
Yeah.
You know, because I'll tell you that I'm sure I've worked for shitty bands and artists before, but I don't know music like you know music.
Right,
I know music from a consumer standpoint.
Right.
So I anybody that ever tells you, and tell me if I'm wrong, John, but to our audience, I'll tell you, whenever you're talking about music, and anybody says I don't know a lot about music, I only know what I like, believe them,
right?
Because I'm that guy. I don't know a lot about music, but I know what I like. Anybody that tells you that oh, that's not good music, I believe that we've already established the fact that John knows a lot about music, and he can hear something and that's not his gig, but he can still respect it as an artist or a band or whatever.
Right.
Okay. Now, with that said, I'm sure you still feel the same way about Tommy, but I know that I've worked for shitty bands and shitty artists, but whenever you see them perform, at least in my eyes, whenever I see them perform, that is it's like a magical moment. Like, wow, it's really coming out of their fingertips. Like with,
well, I know they have a good stage show, but
no, it's not necessarily the show. It's the music is really coming out of their fingers and out of their hands, like, Eric Singer, a little bit of Eric Singer. He's only like 5'5", but he's the drummer for Kiss now.
Okay.
He, to watch him play is, and I don't know how he rates as a drummer in my eyes.
Yeah, I haven't
really
heard him play, so I don't know. I've heard Peter Criss play, obviously,
sure,
but not him.
But to watch him play, I was maybe 25 feet from him whenever he was playing. It's phenomenal to watch him play.
Cool.
Carlos Santana,
no,
I don't think anybody's ever accused him of being a fake.
No.
I mean, this guy's a legend.
Absolutely
but to
not.
watch him even warm up is just,
that dude, and he has such a unique tone as well about him, which is really cool. I will say this in defense of Motley Crue, Mick Mars, that dude is legit. I'll give him
monster.
That. He was far from the greatest guitarist in all the 80s bands, but he was solid. I can't hate on him at all.
And I don't think there's ever been a time where he's ever tried to put himself on that pedestal either.
He's real modest.
He'll
modest.
If I remind me about this whenever I get done with this, I'll tell you about what I found out about him.
Buddy Guy once gave him a big compliment. Told him, he said, "You're the only guitarist in the band," and Mick was like super humbled by that because he loves old blues.
Oh, sure, he's legit.
Yeah, so that kind of surprised me when I heard that, because I look at Motley Crue and I think of we're sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That's all we care about. We're playing music to get pussy,
right?
And like Mick Mars is like, nah, man, I love music. I was
like,
oh, okay, that's pretty cool. I like you,
the one guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Nikki got into a fight with some bikers. He even hit one guy in the face with a chain that he was using as a belt. And then they turned out to be undercover cops. He was hit 7 times with clubs, resulting in a black eye and a broken cheekbone. After he made bail, he was inspired to write "Knock 'em Dead, Kid."
I don't know that song.
I don't either. Restless on a European tour, Tommy Lee and Nikki would break bottles over each other's heads and swallow small light bulbs just for fun. I got nothing. Yeah.
What?
I got nothing. While high, Nikki urinated on Cheap Trick guitarist Rick Nielsen's jacket.
Oh.
And I will tell you that Rick Nielsen is probably one of the nicest people, not just musicians.
Yeah.
He is one of the most nicest and respectful people you will ever meet in your life.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how hard his butt puckered whenever that happened. That poor bastard.
Man.
On cocaine and mushrooms somewhere in Texas, Nikki and Tommy hopped on a moving train, then freaked out and jumped off after it picked up speed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Story about meeting Motley Crue when they played at the Farm Bureau Theater. Oh, okay. So I met Nikki and Tommy in craft services and catering, and we talked for a few minutes. Obviously, I was listening to these guys in high school.
Right.
Well, I heard their music whenever I was in high school. Anybody from my era that doesn't know these guys, you're locked in a cave somewhere.
Right.
Tommy was a typical rocker, and I mean that in a respectful way. He was, how do I put it? His mind was other places.
Right.
I'll say that.
Right.
But there was something about Nikki that was really, really personable. There's rarely do you meet that person that you just, there's something about that, but it's not making a connection. It's not anything like that. It's just that there's something about that person that is just different.
Yeah.
They could probably connect with anybody. And that's the way Nikki got me.
And that doesn't surprise me. I can believe that.
Yeah. If Nikki is fake, he's really good at it.
Well, and what's funny there is, you've got 2 bands that have a very similar motif, them and Kiss, and the bassist of both bands is kind of the face of the band and like the mouthpiece of the band, and kind of the most business oriented, I guess, for lack of a better term. So that's very interesting to me, the parallels between
that's funny
Kiss and Motley Crue.
The same but completely opposite. Same. Gene Simmons is not personable at all.
Okay.
Yeah. I've met both of those guys, and I can tell you that Gene is. And Gene has never said a bad word to me.
No.
I've never had a bad experience with him, but he is not somebody that you're going to bond with.
No.
Alice Cooper opened the show. I didn't get a chance to meet him, but he took the Ice Bucket Challenge before Motley Crue went out there. The way that they played Dr. Feelgood blew my mind. Because what they did, it's almost like, obviously you know how Dr. Feelgood goes.
Right.
Just imagine Earth, Wind, and Fire playing it. Okay, throwing a little bit of funk in it.
Yeah.
Or not them playing it solely, but let's just say that halfway through the song, Earth, Wind, and Fire came out, and they start throwing in a little funk, throwing in a little.
What?
Yeah, dude, it was so good. It was so good. It blew my mind.
Seems very strange to me.
It was like a rock funk mix. It was so good. I wish that they did that whenever they recorded it. It was so good.
I might have to see if I can find a video of that, because that is very strange. You know what I'm saying? In my mind, it seems very strange to me, but
really good version. They were on the Route of All Evil tour. This was September 2006 at the amphitheater, and I talked with Nikki for a few minutes. It's funny because I met them twice at the amphitheater, and I talked to Nikki both times in the same room, and obviously he didn't remember.
Well,
I mean, it's not like I said, "Hey, do you remember me?"
No.
But it was a really good experience.
Good.
I ain't got nothing bad to say about him.
That is good to hear that.
But the one thing I was going to tell you, and I'm going to be all done with the story, is that Mick Mars. Okay, everybody's coming out with books now. As far as Motley Crue's concerned, everybody's coming out with books now, and all these guys, they ride their own bus whenever they go out on tour. I think they're pretty much done touring now. But
I think didn't they do some sort of publicity stunt where they said they were legally bound to not do another
the cessation
farewell tour
of touring?
Yeah, something like that.
So in their contract, they can override themselves. That's part of the contract.
Okay.
But I would be shocked. Nikki said that the only thing he sees in the future with them playing together is if they get inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But,
Gotcha.
Most musicians now, they look at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a joke anyway.
Oh, absolutely. It is.
Especially after, was it Steve Miller? Was it Steve Miller or was it Bob Seger? No, I think it was still Steve Miller.
What happened?
That he lost his shit because they only gave him tickets for him and his wife. They didn't give him tickets for the band.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I think it was Steve Miller. I think you're right.
And Steve don't play. What you see is what you get, man. That's no lie. But anyway, Mick Mars, obviously, Nikki came out with the Heroin Diaries,
Right.
but Mick Mars wants to. They're coming out with a movie too.
Okay.
It's called Dirt, and they've already picked the guy. I forgot his name, but they already picked the guy that's playing Nikki Sixx, and he looks a lot like him.
Didn't one of them have a book called that? I think it was either Vince or Tommy.
I think you're right. I want to say it might have been Tommy. I could be wrong on that. But Mick is going to do a book and probably a documentary type of thing with it. And everybody in the band is, they're talking about, oh, look at the drugs, look at the alcohol, look at all, ooh, we're so crazy.
Right.
Mick's like, yeah, mine's not going to be that. Mine's going to be talking about the ups and downs of the music industry. And,
cool.
Musically speaking, business, and all that. And, totally different direction. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, and that goes along with everything I've ever read him saying and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I wish I would have got a chance to talk to him.
Yeah.
That's just such a weird little son of a bitch.
He is.
Yeah.
He is a weird dude, but in a good way, guy. You know what I mean? Like he
I don't know, that remains to be seen.
Well,
he ain't no serial killer that I know of,
He seems like he's a really humble guy though. Like I said, everything I've ever read of him, he's very, very humble, very grateful to be playing music.
Yeah.
That was one thing he kept repeating over and over again was how like blessed or whatever you want to say, thankful he was for being able to play music for a living. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry I went a little bit long, but I had a lot of information to put out, so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. We're going to take a little break, and John's going to come right back with us.
All right.
Oh, hello there. My name is Jason, and I'm the host of Evansville Podcast, proud member of the Evansville Podcast Network. On the Evansville Podcast, we talk with people in and around Evansville that own businesses, put on events, or are doing interesting things in the tri-state. So check us out at evansvillepodcast.com or find us on your favorite podcast app and learn something you didn't know about life in Evansville. Good job, everybody.
Okay, and we're back. So mine today is going to be a little bit shorter, and like we always say, it seems like with one of us goes longer, the other one usually goes shorter. So keeping true to that.
It's like we have ESPN.
Keeping true to that today. So this myth here that I'm talking about, I feel like this is a really common myth. A lot of the stories that we talk about are ones that either I haven't heard or Randy hasn't heard it, or in many cases no one seems to have heard it. Right. But like half the time I have to edit out you saying like holy shit or no way at the end of it. This is definitely not one of those. This is definitely one that I think almost anyone who's familiar with music in any capacity has probably heard this one at some point.
I can safely say all old dudes do.
Yeah. well, speaking of old dudes and this myth, I remember an ex-girlfriend of mine, her dad mentioned it to me. Oh, this was probably, 15 years ago, something like that. Of course, now he also used to be in the KISS Army when he was a kid.
Oh, boy.
But he still didn't really know a whole lot about a lot of other music, which it's not an insult to him by any means. We used to talk about Led Zeppelin quite a bit, and that was when I was going through a big classic rock phase early on in college. I was really into like Pink Floyd and Zeppelin and
thank God
Jimi
you got
Hendrix.
over that. Jeez.
Hey, I still listen to a lot of classic rock. Whenever I'm traveling with people for my job, if I got somebody in the car with me, that's just what I always default to is a classic rock station.
That's a good go-to.
Exactly. I mean, nobody's going to object to that for the most part.
Or Weird Al.
No, can't say I listen to Weird Al too much these days. He did actually tweet something really funny this week. He actually made a Gigi Allen reference.
What?
which blew me away. But I thought that was absolutely hilarious. That
I've got to meet this guy. I've just got to meet this guy.
I thought it was funny. He made it is the new Justice League posters. They all say "all in" on it. And it has like one's Wonder Woman, one's Flash, and one's Batman and Cyborg and whatever. And Weird Al tweeted a picture of it and said, "Wow, this new Gigi Allen documentary looks really interesting."
Damn.
Because it says "all in."
Right.
I thought it was funny. Whatever. But so back to this myth. I had always assumed that this was false, just because, we've talked about how we were kind of just talking earlier even about how Gene Simmons is, the always the showman,
Right.
and full of shit half the time. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but he's selling an
Bravado.
image. Yeah, there you go. You go. A lot of braggadocio.
Yeah.
And
look how big my dick is.
Yeah, you can never tell what's real and what's bluster with Gene Simmons, and that's not to bash the guy by any means. Clearly, he's a smart businessman.
Oh, absolutely.
And you've talked about that before, and how your interactions with him, and how to the point and blunt he is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been my biggest complaint about Kiss throughout the years, is that it does feel more like a product than a band.
Yeah.
For the most part. Although I will say Strutter is a legit song. I do really like that song. It's a good song. And Ace Frehley, again, is an amazing guitarist, and his
Absolutely.
replacement, Tommy Thayer.
Tommy Thayer's solid, brother.
Oh yeah, that dude. I mean, you wouldn't know it wasn't Ace playing those riffs.
Right.
Dude is amazing. So, but and this week it was revealed that Fox News has banned Gene Simmons.
Yeah.
Which, man, that takes some doing to get banned from Fox News, because you can have sex with a 14-year-old and still get a recommendation from them if you're a certain Alabama senator.
To people that aren't really familiar with Kiss, like maybe a younger generation, that's kind of like being a monkey and getting banned from National Geographic.
And I'm not trying to be political with the Fox News thing.
No, absolutely, but it's the damn truth.
Yeah, no doubt. But so this myth, though, is apparently a true story, which blew my mind to learn that, and that happens quite a bit when I'm researching these things. I'm like, there's no way this is true, and I go in with kind of some confirmation bias and end up being dead wrong, and this one very much so. Gene Simmons is quoted as saying, "As the Kiss comic book project moved along, someone came up with the idea of putting real blood in the ink. It wasn't me. Maybe it was Bill or Sean," and that's Bill Aucoin or Sean Delaney, who were part of their management team. "We got into a DC-3 plane, one of those big prop planes, and flew up to Buffalo to Marvel's printing plant, where they pour the ink and make comic books. A notary public actually witnessed the blood being drawn." Now, I don't know about the blood being drawn, because all I could find there is that the band did have their blood drawn by a registered nurse during one of their concert stops and stored it in vials until they were able to make it up there. But the notary definitely witnessed them pouring the blood. Maybe he didn't witness the blood being drawn as well, because the band later flew to Marvel's Board and Ink plant in Depew, New York, and the notary public released a statement saying, "This is to certify that Kiss members Gene Simmons, Ace Frehley, Paul Stanley, and Peter Criss have each donated blood, which is being collectively mixed with the red ink to be used for the first issue of the Marvel Kiss comics. The blood was extracted on February 21st, 1977 at Nassau Coliseum and has been under guarded refrigeration until this day, when it was delivered to the Board and Ink plant in Depew, New York." So, get a notary public to witness and certify that you poured your own blood into a vat of ink. That's
the reason that they actually that is pretty rock and roll. The reason that they didn't film it or take any pictures is because of the censorship law back then. So I'm sure there's private pictures that somebody took with their little Kodak or something like that, but they couldn't publish those because of censorship rules.
Really? So they couldn't publish the blood being drawn?
Well, it was either that or the needle in somebody's skin.
Huh?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It was 77. It was a different time.
That's Interesting.
Yeah, I was 10 years old whenever that happened. And I remember that distinctly. And my parents, well, not necessarily my dad, but my mom lost her shit. And boy, I don't want you to have anything with the. Oh,
well, you know, I can remember when I was a little kid. I mean, I was probably 5 or 6 years old. So this is like the late 80s, early 90s. I remember a Sunday school teacher asserting that it was fact that KISS stood for Knights in Satan Service.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, the people always were afraid, and obviously it goes along with the whole satanic panic of that era in general.
Well, and I think that says a lot about different levels of fact. You know,
Right.
that person said that it was a fact. Okay, well, why is it a fact?
Yeah.
Show me where you got this information, you know.
Exactly.
But you're a kid, so of course you're not going to call him out on bullshit. You know?
No. And I can actually remember he wouldn't say what it stood for. He just said a band whose name stood for something satanic. And I was like, what did it stand for?
Yeah, your
You know,
antennas go up.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out. But there was also apparently a subsequent rumor that the blood ended up in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition.
Really? I never heard that.
I had not either. And I really couldn't find a whole lot about that. But I feel like it's pretty obviously false. I don't know if that ink plant had anything to do with anybody else. Everything I could see, everything I could find made it sound like that was an ink plant that mainly supplied ink for Marvel and not for Sports Illustrated or anybody else. But, you know, something like that, it's almost impossible to prove a negative like that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I don't know. Obviously, those are two different kinds of paper, so I'm wondering if they use two different kinds of ink, too.
Right. Yeah, because, I mean, I used to read Sports Illustrated a lot just because I was bored. My dad would always bring them home from the barber shop. But, I mean, ink in that was almost always black. You know what I'm saying? I can't, I can't ever recall any Sports Illustrated having much, if any, red ink. Maybe headlines on a page or something like that. Oh, okay, valid point. I guess it could be for the pictures. Still, it's strange. I don't see how they could have mixed those up like that.
Oh, I'm sure they probably got 1,000 other, you know, things that. Well, you know what I heard. You know, whatever. It's a fact.
They printed Bibles where Jesus' text was printed from the blood from KISS. So that would have been an interesting twist on things there,
to say the least. Wow, you talk about being a collector's item.
Yeah,
can you imagine? You really could get an autographed version of the Bible. You can have Gene sign it. Oh, wow.
I have an autographed Bible from Doug Stanhope that he stole from a hotel.
That's classic. I love that he does that. Jeez. You know, in August, did you have any more on that?
No, I mean, that was really all I've got about that, honestly. It's clearly a true rumor, but yeah, that's about all I got.
Well, I've driven Gene twice.
Yeah.
First time was just him, but the second one was in August of 2013, and they were in concert at the amphitheater in Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
That was a really, really good time. We were with them for about a day and a half, and we picked them up from their little gray plane. I mean, it is, you talk about nondescript. Yeah, you would think like back in the day in the 70s, you know?
Right?
Yeah, this is a nondescript gray. Little,
Interesting.
Now, the inside is another story.
Oh, sure.
God, you got to see the inside of Toby's plane. Dear God. White trash. Whoa.
Really?
It is bad.
That's funny.
Yeah. But I mean, it's typical him. It's funny. You know,
Yeah.
it's funny. It's not like that's his real taste, you know.
No.
But anyway, we were driving. We had two different vehicles. I had Eric Singer and Gene, and Faye had Paul Stanley and Tommy Thayer.
Gotcha.
I was actually kind of jealous because I wanted to meet Paul and definitely wanted to meet Tommy.
Yeah, no doubt.
And never had a bad interaction with Paul. He's a lot taller than I thought.
Really?
Yeah, he's like 6 foot.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Okay.
with the afro, he's as tall as I am. Yeah, nice guy.
And he always comes off as just super nice.
Yeah.
In every interview I've seen with him.
I'll say that I think that he's a closet egomaniac.
I'm sure.
I'm sure that he has an ego that is out of control, but
Yeah.
he always comes across like just the nicest guy.
Yeah.
I truly don't have a bad thing to say about him.
Yeah.
Tommy was, I mean, Tommy's just sitting down like talking to you. I mean, he's just a normal dude. Eric is a handful. Eric Singer is a handful.
Okay.
And I mean that in the best possible way. That brother, he likes to joke and have some fun.
Okay,
and,
yeah, this is the guy I remember you talking about.
Yeah,
this.
he is. I love that guy. Like, it got so bad that I was like, okay, bro, I got to go to work now. You know, I don't mean it in a bad way. It's just he's God damn it, he's funny.
He just wanted to talk.
Yeah,
And that's cool. That's cool.
So anyway, we picked him up on a Saturday morning. Gene and Eric were in my vehicle, and some tour manager I don't care to remember, and
Right.
Paul and Tommy were in Faye's vehicle, and we picked him up from a private airport, which is literally right next to Norfolk International Airport. Like, it's
Nice.
they pull off there, like they use the same runways.
Okay.
But at the end of the runway, they just turn left instead of hanging right.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So everybody got in the vehicles, and we're having a great conversation. Obviously, that's where I first got acquainted with Eric, and obviously everybody's waiting on Gene.
Right.
So Gene is the type of guy that he carries around 2 phones.
Okay.
And one of them is a BlackBerry. And I've got to, I was thinking about this story earlier, and I've got to talk to somebody and find out what the deal is with BlackBerry, because Gene has one.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen multiple artists that has one. It was a big deal to President Obama.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal is with BlackBerries.
Well, there's a lot of things that go with it. I mean, it could be somebody who used a BlackBerry as their first smartphone and they just like to use that. Plus, the other thing is BlackBerry is very secure. So Samsung has security features that they call Knox, okay, as in Fort Knox. And Knox is developed by BlackBerry for Samsung.
Oh, I'll be damned.
BlackBerry, I believe, still has contracts with the government to use security features on phones for the government. So that's really the main reason why they're stupid secure. And now BlackBerry does not make their own phones, or I should say, let me rephrase that. BlackBerry used to have their own operating system that they would put on their phones. Now they still make phones, but they just use Android.
Oh, I'll be damned.
And there's the BlackBerry Priv is the main model that they've had for a while now. That's a very, very good device. And one of my reps that I've traveled with had a BlackBerry Priv, mainly because he wanted one, mainly because it still has the slide out keyboard, so it has a regular physical keyboard to it. But they're very secure devices, and these newer ones that they're coming out with, they run Android and they run it very well too. Because one of my complaints about Samsung that I talk about a lot is how much bloat bullshit they put on their phones, and they take a great operating system, because I love Android for the fact that it can do anything. It's I say it all the time, it's as complicated or as simple as you want it to be. And Samsung just puts all sorts of unnecessary shit on their devices. BlackBerry keeps it very stripped down and simple. They keep it pretty darn pure, and again, ridiculously secure.
So Gene was finally showed himself in the door frame of the airplane, and he gets in the vehicle and he's on the phone. He's on his BlackBerry.
Yeah.
And he's I had already met him. It was cool to be around him.
Right.
But it wasn't like I was nervous or anything. You know?
No.
And he always rides shotgun. Yeah, because guys like that, they don't ride in limos.
Gotcha.
He was riding.
Well, because the first time he rode with you, he rode in the back seat, though.
That one was a little bit different because he was in makeup.
Right. Yeah.
Which is a totally different story. Oh Lord, I got some ones about that one. But anyway, he got in the vehicle and he's talking on his BlackBerry, and he's on a conference call with his attorneys and some other folks in L.A. Have I already told you this story?
You told me. I don't know if you said this one on air, but you've told me this one.
So as we're driving, I'm taking him over to the hotel in Norfolk where they was at, and so he was on the phone for probably, I'd say, about half the time. And after we got close to the hotel, he says, well, gentlemen, you're sitting in a room with some of the most overpaid and underworked lawyers in the state of California. I think we have everything that we need, so let's make this happen. He got off the phone. He turned around to Eric, and he said that they'll be announcing the L.A. Kiss on Monday. And I didn't know what L.A. Kiss was. So Sunday night, we dropped them off at the airport, and they went about their way. And I had a good experience with them all in all. Yeah. So I go to work on the next day on Sunday, on Monday, I go to my other job and I'm talking to my buddy Frank.
Yeah.
And I tell him about what happened, and he's like, "Oh, that's cool. I wonder what the LA Kiss is." And he knows way more about sports than I do, but he's not really into sports. He just understands it. You know?
Right.
So anyway, we're sitting
like
down. Yeah. So we're sitting down and we're watching the news, and the next thing I know, Gene and Paul are on the runway in L.A., and they're announcing the new indoor football team, L.A. Kiss.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
it was arena football.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
And, of course, I don't know anything about any kind of sports. I mean, I might know a little bit about competitive eating, but that's about it. But
Eat that shit like Kobayashi.
So, it might not be that big a deal, but, to me, it was cool that I was there whenever the deal was broke. And, it was funny that if you saw the announcement of what they did on that Monday morning and all of the, the huff and puff that went behind it,
Right.
all the fluffery that went behind it, boy, somebody busted their ass for 48 hours to make that shit happen.
Right.
So,
it's funny that you mentioned that, because that same ex-girlfriend's dad that was in the Kiss Army as a kid used to try to get me to go to arena football games with him
is that
all
right?
the time, because Indy had an arena football team. I don't know if they still do. I don't even know if arena football is still around.
I don't know.
Honestly.
I was trying to find out some information for this. I ran out of time, but I saw that LA Kiss has like a 4-14 record. Is that good or bad?
Well, obviously that's terrible. It means they only won 4 games and lost 14.
Oh shit!
Yeah. Whenever you see a record like that, it always goes wins and then losses. 4-14, you've won 4 games and lost 14, which that surprises me. They play that many. I mean, the NFL only plays 16 games in a season, so they play at least 18.
I tell you what, man, they have some badass helmets.
Well, and arena football is intense because with regular football you've got sidelines, so like you run off of the field and there's the
little chalk lines and the
field extends past the field of play, so the teams all stand on the side and stuff like that. Arena football, there's no sidelines, there's just the walls. It's like playing football in a hockey rink.
Oh, you got to walk through a door to get through?
Yeah, because it's where the field ends is where the field ends. I mean, there's a wall.
Oh, wow.
There, and the field's shorter than normal, so it's not uncommon for the kickoff to go into either. Well, there's usually a net to keep it from going into the stands,
right.
but it goes over the end of the field. So yeah, it's crazy. It's a lot faster paced. Yeah.
So you went to a concert last week?
Yeah. On Wednesday night, we went and saw St. Vincent up in Indianapolis at the Egyptian Room.
Now, this is a dude.
No.
This is a band.
This is a girl.
This is a girl. Okay,
Yeah,
right, but this
yeah.
is a person. Okay.
Yeah. She performs by the name of St. Vincent. Her real name is Annie Clark. Not that really matters, but
she sounds like she shoots rifles.
no, she's really interesting. She I first got into her back in like 2012. She was doing a project with David Byrne from the Talking Heads. Mm-hmm. And they were performing on the Colbert Report. I was like, oh, David Byrne and some girl who can really play guitar. Holy shit, what's going on here?
Right.
And which, I mean, there's been plenty of amazing female guitarists over the years, like Jennifer Batten, who played for Michael Jackson for quite a while in the 80s. And was a solo artist on her own.
She's a little bitty thing, ain't she?
Who, Jennifer Batten?
No,
or Annie Clark?
Annie Clark.
Yeah, she's tiny. She dated Cara Delevingne, however the hell you pronounce her last name, for a while.
Dear God, somebody get this woman a cheeseburger. Holy hell.
But she's really cool. She's just an amazing artist all around. She's a visual artist as well, so she does like all the artwork for her albums, and she directs. I believe she directs. I know she at least coordinates and plans all her videos as well. And she's known for these like elaborate stage outfits and stage shows and stuff like that. And so what she did, she just came out with a new album really recently. It's really good, and everyone should definitely check that out. But so she came out and she actually played the first song off of her first album, which was really cool, and played a handful of her older songs. I'd say she probably played like 6 or 7 songs from her last few albums. From the first album up to the last one, because she won a Grammy for her last album, which was her self-titled album. She was the first female artist to win a Grammy since Sinead O'Connor in '91. Yeah, so she's an amazing artist. So she played several songs off of her first few albums, and then came back out, and she went backstage, changed outfits, came back out, and played the entirety of her new album from beginning to end, and had this big screen behind her. And so she had released 2 singles off of her album already, and with videos for each one, and it was clips from both of those videos that went along with each song as she played it. So it was this really cool kind of, multimedia performance piece.
And all that is her. She did all of that.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was really cool. And it was sometimes she plays with the whole band. This time she just played by herself with a backing track. But it was really cool. It was really interesting to see, because she's, like I said, she's an amazing guitarist too, but she definitely has a very unique approach to guitar. A lot of times she uses a lot of effects to the point where you can't even tell it's a guitar anymore, and it sounds more like a synth or a piano or something like that. Yeah.
You're talking about a box guitar, not electric.
No, an electric guitar.
Oh, right.
Electric guitar. Yeah.
I'll be darned. Is that right?
Yeah, you
Good
wouldn't
concert, though?
You wouldn't really be able to do that too easily with an acoustic guitar, just because of feedback and shit like that. I mean, it can be done, but it's she has her own signature model now through Ernie Ball.
No kidding.
Which is a really cool guitar, and I've been wanting to try to get my hands on one to play it. Just because, like I said, she takes a very unique approach to guitar. She's very, very skilled and very talented in just the traditional sense,
right,
but also just very good at thinking outside the box and coming up with different riffs and again effects to color it in a completely different way that sounds more akin to a synth or something like that than a guitar.
Wow, nice.
So yeah, really, really cool show. Went with my wife and her cousin and her husband. Her husband is a big fan of St. Vincent as well. So when I posted a video of one of her songs, one of her recent singles on Facebook about a month or so ago, he commented on it and was like, "Hey, I love St. Vincent. Saw her back in whenever," and was talking about it. So my wife's cousin planned this out. It was going to be a surprise for him, and then her mom spoiled it for him. So, but yeah, it was a good show. It was a really good show. Had a lot of fun. It was really fun to watch that. So
I don't know why. I swear I think my mind has Tourette's. But whenever you said Grammy, I remember reading this thing on Reddit today. Did you know that Dick in a Box got a Grammy?
What, for comedy record or something like that?
I didn't know. I didn't read it, but I just saw it. I was like, get out of
here. We were watching. Maria Bamford has a show on Netflix called Lady Dynamite.
That woman drives me crazy.
Oh, I love her. She's so funny. And the second season just came out earlier this month, and Andy Samberg was on it as himself. And the guy who plays Maria's agent on the show, like in the storyline, he becomes friends with Andy Samberg, like to the point of like obsession. And he's supposed to be dressing up as Andy for this bit on the show, and he's dressed in the Dick in a Box outfit.
Oh, right.
And so he's got the box sitting in front of him there.
Oh, that's funny.
It was really hilarious.
One last thing I forgot to put on the last part. Did you know that Gene Simmons voiced a character on SpongeBob?
Hold on a second. Let me think. Who would that? Was it King Neptune? I don't know. Who was it?
I didn't get the character, but it was on 20,000 Patties Under the Sea. That's the episode.
Huh. I'm going to have to look that one up because I don't know. If it's in the earlier seasons, I'm sure I've seen it. But
I know more about Gene Simmons than I do about SpongeBob SquarePants. I sure, and that's after raising kids during that era.
Man, I love SpongeBob. We took Kristen's nephew to go see the last movie in theaters, which I think we also saw it by ourselves before that too. I unabashedly love SpongeBob. Mainly the first 3 seasons are great. The creator left the show after the 3rd season, and it just went to shit after that. I mean, really terrible.
As soon as to me, I hate to sound like one of those guys, but I dug it because I was forced to watch it with my kids. But as soon as it started picking up tread, or everybody was onto it.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm all
Dude,
done.
I mean, a lot of times that happens. I mean, Rick and Morty almost has been ruined now just because of the fans are such idiots.
Yeah.
Like those really annoying fans who just walk around yelling "wubba lubba dub dub" all the time. It's like, shut up, you're not original. Everyone has said this. Is like it's like in 2003 when everyone was walking around yelling, "I'm Rick James, bitch."
Right.
It's not.
It's that Dunning-Kruger thing we were talking about.
Oh my God, it's just so annoying.
Did you have anything else before we shut this thing down?
No, man, that's all I got.
One thing I wanted to throw in before we sign off is Brandon Benjamin and his crew from Greenwood High School are leaving this week to perform in California at the Hollywood Christmas Parade on Hollywood Avenue. The parade is going to be on the 26th, but apparently they're recording it to air at a later date. So we're proud of y'all, Benjamin, and we know you're going to impress the britches off of them. And all them boys and kids down at Southern California, they don't know what they in for. So do us proud at Greenwood High School. We're watching out for you. So let's go ahead and bring this home, brother.
Alrighty. Well, as always, if you guys have any myths or legends you would like for us to talk about on the show, you can contact us on Facebook, Tall Tales of Music Mythology, or on Twitter at T2M2 Podcast, or you can email us at hosts, HOSTS, at T2M2.org.
And you can find everything you need to know about the Smarts Project on the Google, and you can join us at our home on the web at thesmartsproject.com. Our complaint department is open 24 hours a day at Randy at thesmartsproject.com. And as always, be kind to each other. Never be a myth.
Always be a legend.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.